So one of the organizations that we've had the opportunity to partner with for a very long time, who's been running at an incredible pace over the course of the last couple of years, especially when it comes to modernizing systems and doing things in a cloud-native way, is Discover Card. I'd like to bring up Ying, who's the Director of Card Acquisitions Technology at Discover, to help tell their story. Ying, welcome to the stage.
All right, thank you, Mike. Before I start my presentation, I want to just talk a little bit about myself, actually. Before I started my career as a software engineer, I actually was a trained structural engineer. So I spent a lot of time designing and building houses and apartments. So I really love to use house building as a metaphor for a lot of things. So about 2 years ago, I was given an opportunity to lead our replatforming and rebuilding our card acquisition system. I really took the house building analogy to the next level. I remember I was at a town hall presentation for our technology group for this effort. And then I had a slide that had a traditional house and a modern house next to each other. And then a modern house obviously has an open floor plan, and it's full of light, and it's easy to config, and then flexible. And then in contrast to a traditional house where it's hard to modify and to change. Using that as an analogy to say that a modern platform that we're going to be building is going to be like this modern house. That's going to be very flexible, it's going to be easy to config, and it's going to be full of light. So the house analogy was almost perfect until I learned the concept of evolutionary architecture in software engineering. So then I realized actually house analogy is a terrible analogy for software engineering because houses are built to last. And the architecture, the foundation, the plumbing, everything that you build is really not supposed to change as much. Whereas in software engineering, you're supposed to build something that's to change, and then it's built for agility. So that's what we set as a vision for our card acquisition modernization, that we want to build a system that can evolve and then change with the business and with the customer. But how do we go by defining an architecture that's evolutionary, that's going to adjust and adapt based on the customer needs? So the first thing we started was to have an event storming session where we mapped out the entire customer journey from beginning to end when customer come to apply for Discover Card. During that exercise, we captured all the actions the customer take as they go through the journey, and then all the events that triggered when they take the action. Then we logically group all the actions into a domain. And then how the domain and the services interact with each other becomes an event-driven architecture. So now we have an architecture vision. How do we go about actually building it? Do we build it iteratively, moving capabilities gradually from a legacy to modern? Or do we build the new platform on the side, and then once everything is done, we're going to just cut it over, like how we always have done in the past? Based on the evolution architecture principle, that we wanted to start small and build it incrementally. So we're leveraging the strangler pattern, where we gradually move the capabilities from the legacy to the new modern platform. And then during iteration, we'll validate some of the key architecture assumptions, and then we'll learn from that iteration, and then we'll apply the learning to the next iteration. This approach given us a lot of benefits, and then the first benefit is that we're able to leverage our business benefit much sooner. So as soon as we move a capability from legacy to modern, we're able to build on top of it. And then secondly, it reduces the business risk significantly because as we start small, biting off a smaller chunk, it's much easier for us to build and test and validate. Now that we have a execution strategy, enabling our people becomes the top priority. From our past experience, we've learned that our engineers' strength in their engineering practice, as well as their domain knowledge, directly correlate to the quality, speed, and then also their productivity. So we invested in our teams the modern engineering practice along with product development practice as well. So we immersed them into a training session through a balanced team approach. So a balanced team practices extreme programming, user-centered design, and lean product development. So the engineers represent technology, and designers represent the customer, and the product owners represent the business. So together as a team, they will build products that are technically feasible and solves customers' problems and also drive the business value. Another thing that we set aside from the very beginning is we wanted to relentlessly drive automation. So we wanted to make sure that we build the automation into the program so that we can enable our teams to move really fast, but also provide guardrails. So we build a product team, and then the sole purpose of this team is to build and evolve our CI/CD pipeline. So during the past year, the team built a very thorough and robust pipeline that not only automated some of the typical DevOps functions, but also automated some of the governance and compliance tasks, such as security scanning, code quality check. And the team really runs this pipeline as a product. So then they define a roadmap and then do very frequent feature releases. This has really enabled our teams to move fast, but also have the guardrails that making sure they move also safely. One of the hardest things for me personally was to answer the question of, so what? Why do we need to modernize? The old system seem to work fine. Why do we have to do this? It took me a while and my team to figure out that it turns out data and the metrics actually tell a much better story. So we've learned to use metrics to measure first our progress, but also help the broader organization to understand why do we need to modernize and what are the benefits, and then the ROI from the modernization. So we measure three things. We measure speed, quality, and also our DevOps maturity. For speed, we measure lead time to change. This is from the time product design to the product actually released to production. For customer experience and for quality, we measure the error and friction rate the customer had when they come to engage us online. And then we also measure how many customer impacting issues that we experience when we release our product and features into production. And then for DevOps maturity, we measure how fast we can mitigate issues and then react to an issue when we release product features into production. When we put the data side by side between legacy and a modern platform, the data really is telling a very compelling story of why we should modernize. And then one of the best things is all our changes are now pushed into production during the day. So we don't have to get up in the middle of the night and then do those risky long-hour install, which significantly improved our team's quality of life. One of the things I've learned personally throughout this journey is transformation is hard. It's like running a marathon, not a sprint. So it takes a lot of endurance, it takes persistence, but most importantly, it takes the commitment from everybody to not fall back when things get really hard. In order for us to continue to make progress and continue to go forward, our focus right now is on people, because people build the culture and people make things happen. So we're still on our learning journey, but I believe with the broader organization's support and then also with our team's commitment, we're going to continue to move forward and make a lot of progress. With that, I'm going to welcome back Mike on the stage. Thank you.